What is going on, everyone? It is your boy Thriller here, and we are here for the week 2 pick'ems of the BBL season 12. And I am looking forward to hopefully getting some of these more recorded for you. I'm not gonna try to record so many in advance because as of recording this, I actually have not seen. Obviously, it's not been November yet. Spoilers, as you can see down below in the clock down there. Um, I'm doing some of these a little earlier just because in case I end up being really late to my uploads, I can kind of be factoring this in. I don't think I will do any more future ones. I think after these two, I will just kind of try to stay my best on top of everything else going forward, seeing as I would should have more free time in November. So I figured I just wanted to keep recording these videos, but I know if I just keep doing that, I'm gonna be like way too far ahead, not gonna be able to talk about the matchups and stuff like that. So I'm only gonna do this one. This is like the last time we'll do it for right now before matches start. But I really just wanted to start getting some content grinding right now since we're on the draft league break, and I really want to keep my mind still talking about draft league in some shape or form. So yeah, so sorry I'm not gonna be able to talk about the week one results. If you guys did not know the week one results, though, I did mention I picked Ant, Joey, Shuckle, John, Keegan, Dell, D-Ray, Seabad, and CV Marcus to win week one, and I will actually leave comments down below in the description on how our predictions were. And our game of the week was also Joey versus Lapsus, which you guys don't know. I get an extra point for game of the week. So basically, we're going for a 9 out of 9 scoring here. So I will let you guys know how many of these were right, and I will let you know how many of like from like a four of like 999 or 8 out of 8 based on how it goes. I will let you guys know how we did this season, unless I'm not going to count the game of the week as an extra point, and then I'm just talking stupid. But basically, I'll let you know the ranking down below for the week for this week two Pick'ems video on our current standings and go from there. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and break down these games. If you guys are excited for some BBL hype and for the Pick'ems this season, leave a like if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Join the crew today because you'll be feeling with the crew. We're on the road to 200 subs. We are on that way right now. We have gotten quite a bit of some subs lately, and I am very much appreciated. Thank you all so much for your love and support. So, with it, let's kick off with some goons action here. We got It's Whatever Ant taking on his man Obo, and a very interesting matchup here. We have got Calyrex Ice, Galarian Slowking, Meowscarada, Scizor, Walking Wake, Palmot, Basque Legion Beamel, Torterra, Munchlax, Galarian Moltres, and Stonejourner, with Terra's Bean, Stonejourner, and the Walking Wake. Taking on Obo, who has Groudon, Raging Bolt, Screamtail, Rillaboom, Sneasel, Mandibuzz, Milotic, Hisuian Guja, Porygon 2, and Banette, with the Terra Captain being Raging Bolt. This is a very tough matchup for Obo for one main reason. He realistically cannot bring his Uber. And you may be asking yourself, why can he not bring his Uber? Is his Uber bad? Well, his Uber is kind of bad in the matchup, but the main reason he can't bring his Uber is because of the fact that Walking Wake takes full advantage of the sun. And with Obo not having the most reliable water resist in the world when it's double empowered, his only real water resist are Milotic and Guja, and Guja really is not one to be taking the water hit into a dragon type move. Unless it's a Assault Vest, it can do that, but then it's really weakening down to the Guja, and same can be said for the Milotic. So, really going to be a tough matchup here for Obo. Because if he wants to bring his Uber, he has to risk bringing Sun. And if you want my honest opinion, I don't think his Uber does really good in this matchup. Like, obviously, having a fire side move for Scissor is really great. An answer for Torterra is also fantastic in some way. We can, the Hurricanes from Moltres is great, but I think like Shell Smash Torterra beats it. Basque Legion can work around beating it. Palmont, is definitely something you can win with. Do well against what Wake, Miascarata, and Calyrex shut this mon down really hard. And Glowking can always rock Berry and then get that chilly reception out every single time. And you're forcing out these plays, and then Calyrex just clicks Trick Room, and then you just lose the game. Like, Calyrex Ice is impossible for Obo to play around. He really needs to run a Terra type on his Raging Bolt that is going to seriously need to help him here. I am really expecting Obo to really be up. defensive build. Excuse me. A defensive build this week, and he's going to have to really rely on Sneasler to really put in the work this week. Because I do think Sneasler matches up really well into Ant's team, but I just don't think it's a good matchup for Obo. I think Obo really is going to struggle this matchup. He is going to have to really rely on the mind games of Thunderclap and Raging Bolt. I think everything else on his team is fairly decent this matchup. I think Screamtail's okay. I don't think it's the greatest. Mandibuzz, don't really think you bring that. It doesn't really match up that well into most things that Ant has. My Milotic is pretty decent in this matchup. It's not the greatest though. Seeing Gutra, I definitely think you bring that. I think you have forced to bring the Sap Sipper variant. Excuse me. I think Porygon 2 looks pretty decent here. I think it's a little tough bringing Palmont, but I could see Ant bringing Palmont regardless, depending on the matchup and what kind of set he wants to go with. And I do think you're forced to bring your Rillaboom, just because you kind of need something that always have a revenge check. Plus, you have high horsepower, so you have good options for that. You can be able to take on Scizor or just U-turn out on Scizor every single time, so it's really good there. But this is a really tough matchup for Obo here. As we just look at Ant's team, Calyrex Ice Rider just wins. There's no question. That's literally just wins the game. I think he's gonna go more of a Trick Room variant with this matchup, just because Obo's team is, even though it's slow, I'm pretty sure Calyrex Ice can outslow most of Obo's team, which I think is really important to note here. I think Trick Room is a beneficial in this matchup. I could see Trick Room's chilly reception for the Galarian Slowking for the defense buff, and the fact that you give us like a couple of turns in Trick Room for the Calyrex. Uh, the only concern is that you are going first if you do chilly reception like that, so you have to be really careful on how you do that. I think Terra Walking Wake looks absolutely insane this matchup. I think you can actually be going with a physical variant in some cases for this matchup. I think Mix also really works, and Special can also work. Special can kind of take advantage of really easily, so I do think I kind of like more of a physical. Palmot's not that bad this matchup. Palmot can do a lot of good things here. Don't know if it's going to be a strong bring, but we'll see. Basque Legion could see it not being brought just because of the fact that you can get revenge by Rillaboom, Raging Bull very easily. So I don't really know if you see that. Torterra looks actually really good this matchup. Torterra has like really no downside towards it. I could see something like a Shell Smash loaded dice set, be able to take on things like the Mandibuzz, and then just having Bullet Seed just to kind of constantly bring stuff down. Rock Slide, Rock Blast, Bullet Seed, Earthquake, kind of just see as the set there. Glare Moltres could see it being brought, as there's not really good combination of Dark and Flying Resist on Obo's draft. Terra Stone Journey would be kind of fun. Kind of like a Terra Fire set with like Iron Defense is really good, especially with the Suns up, weakening the power from Milotic. You could read something like a funky weakness policy bring, which I think would be really funny. But that would be interesting. Meowscarada looks absolutely insane. Meowscarada has very hard switch-ins. It's about to beat Sneasler before the burden pops off there. So Sneasler can get some chip damage. If Sneasler gets chip damage, Meowscarada can be able to revenge it with potentially the triple axle, since Sneasler does have weak defenses. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Obo combats this. I am obviously going to be picking Ant for this matchup. I think Obo seriously struggles, but Obo can still find a way to pull this off. He just has to really build smart and has to be really careful how he preps and plays in this matchup. Up next, we got my man. We got another. I'm going to say it already. It's a game of the week. I know it's kind of a spoiler, and I'm not really taking credit for looking at the other matchups. I mostly picked this as my game of the week, not because it's Joey, but just because this is a hype match that it's actually going to be like a serious build from both players. And that is going to be Joey versus Chimpack, aka Chimp. And so this is going to be a really good matchup here. So let's first look at Joey's team. Joey has got the Mewtwo, Terra Zarude, Enamorous, Gliscor, Iron Crown, Primarina, Gashing Fire, Smeargle, Avalon, and Vileplume, with Terra Captains being Zarude and Avalon. Taking on Chimp's team, which has ZEKROM, Torrentee, Terapagos, Tinkaton, Landorus, Sinistcha, Overquill, Overbarn, Heartflame, and Kellio, with the Terra being the Tornadus T. Now, if I know Joey, he is definitely going to try to overwhelm Chimp with hazard stacking as his only removal option. He is Terapagos. But definitely don't count Chimp out in this matchup. Chimp has got a lot of terrifying things this matchup. like Joey is going to really struggle dealing with that sheer force Landorus, as it does outspeed a good chunk of most of Joey's draft. And Joey can't just be willy nilly with bringing Zarude in on a Landorus when the U-turn could just do about 50 to 60%, or if it's a physical Landorus, just straight up knock it out. So definitely something to note there. ZEKROM is a very terrifying Uber into Joe's team, as it can just basically, if it gets a Dragon Dance or a Tailwind up, it can kind of just start punching holes through Joey's roster. Torrent with Tera is going to be insanely hard for Joey to really deal with and try to kind of play around. There's a couple of options I think I could see into this matchup. I also would not be surprised just to see a standard Terra Fly, because Terra Fly looks insanely good into Joey's roster, as Joey does not have a resist besides Iron Crown. Um, Looking at Tinkaton, don't know if he fully brings that. I think Tinkaton's really rough this matchup. Senestra also looks pretty good into Joey for the most part. I think with Thick Fat's a fantastic Gouge and Fire answer. Overquill, I definitely think I could see being brought is to try to get up his own layer of spikes and just overwhelm Joey's roster. As also a really good melon. Uh, Ogrephon Heart Flame, I don't know if it's brought this matchup. It's not terrible into Joey's team, but it would be kind of interesting. But I would say it definitely makes a lot of sense. Keldeo, don't know if you fully bring that though. Keldeo doesn't really match up that well into most things that Joey has. So there's that. So and Terapagos, I definitely think comes as not only as your rapid spinner, but it's also pretty annoying for Joey to deal with. As normal spam looks really good into Joey's roster. I could see it with like rapid spin, calm mind, Terra Blast, Earth Power, or Flamethrower, whichever you know um Chimp win. The only reason I would say Flamethrower is because he wants to deal with that Vileplume. The Vileplume is potentially there in that matchup. So, really think Chimp's got a good matchup into Joey. And looking at Joey's team here, his Mewtwo obviously does fantastically well. As he can just really take advantage of a lot of things on the team. I would not be surprised to see a physical Mewtwo, as Mewtwo does get Earthquake. I'm pretty sure by level up, not level up by moveset by tutor. So I could see like a mixed Mewtwo with Clear Amulet, so its attack is never lowered. I think Terra's root obviously needs to come. I would think maybe something along the lines of maybe something like Terra Flying, Terra Grass, maybe I don't or Terra Ghost, like Terra Ground. Like I don't really know exactly what kind of Terra type. I do think I think Zarude is another great Terra captain here. I think Enamorus looks insane this matchup. I do not see a really good switch into Fairy at all from Chip's side. I think Glasscore could come and be a hazard block for this matchup, but I don't fully know how good Glasscore can be this matchup. But it definitely would be something that Joey might have to really consider bringing, as he needs a really good ground type in this matchup. Iron Crown, I don't really think this is a good Iron Crown matchup. Primarina might be might be being brought, but it definitely does need to run the Window Berry in this matchup in order to really to counteract some of the things that Chimp does have. I would primarily assume that you would really want this to really kind of catch the Ogre Pond to an extent, so you can try to knock it out with a water type move. I think Gashing Fire looks absolutely insane this matchup. I do think Joey has to position it and get it set up at the right moment, though, and have to look out and see if the Lando is scarfed. If the Lando is scarfed, then that is going to be a big issue for Joey to try to win with this mod. But if this thing can get a Dragon Dance up and nothing else is scarfed, this thing can just straight up win. Now, obviously, the Sinistra could be a bit of a problem, but Joey can run something like the Clear Amulet, so his attack cannot be dropped, and he can be able to take on the Sinistra 1v1 and constantly get Dragon Dances up. So that's gonna be really good there. We could see the Spherical being brought and be like a funky, wonky set. Terra Avalog doesn't look terrible this matchup. I just don't know if it's really like, good in this matchup. And we honestly could see the Vileplume, but I don't know if Vileplume really matches up pretty well here. In terms of the matchup, though, I actually think I'm going to have to give it to Chimp here. I think Chimp has a really good matchup into Joey. I think it's okay, what the hell? That was weird. I didn't even see anything just tweaked right there. I don't know what the hell that happened right there. But I'm going with Chimp here. And funny enough, there's a history here. I believe Chimp has always beaten Joey. I don't think Joey has ever beaten Chimp in a draft league game. I think Chimp is 3-0 against Joey. So as much as I would love to root for Joey to win this one, it's definitely a tough matchup for him to really combat against Chimp's draft. But I do think this is going to be a really great matchup, though. Up next, you've got Shuckle King taking on Kyle. So that's what it was. There we go. But we've got Kyle A taking on Shuckle King here. Shuckle King's team is Zazashi and Iron Treads, Terra, Ogerpon, Willspring, Latios, Darkrai, Deoxys Defense, Petchikron, Hariyama, Quildan, which is just there as a mascot. And then Kyle A's team is Shin Pao, Great Tusk, Ditto, Iron Moth, Sylveon, Ronan Wash, Arbolive, Jirachi, Spidops, Trapinch, and Giratina with Terra's Beam, Ditto, and Iron Moth. Looking at Kyle's roster here, I think the Pao is going to be insanely difficult for Shuckle to really play around. Obviously, Zacian can always check it and kind of deal with it. Same with Hariyama, but I do think that Pao is going to be a very devastating Pokemon to deal with here. I think Giratina could also be a bit of a problem, but I do think that Chuckle has all the pieces he needs to overwhelm it. So there's actually a chance we don't see Giratina this matchup. We could see the Spidops coming in and force the Treads to be Rapid Spin for this matchup, which I do think is a very possible opportunity for that. His first impression actually looks really funny into a lot of Pokemon on Chuckle's draft, not gonna lie. Um, I think Jirachi's really good in this matchup. I think you're forced to bring it though. I do think the Zen Headbutt to Iron Head Flinch spam is going to be kind of necessary for this matchup. But he does need to get the pieces of kind of weakened down to kind of start spamming one or the other for this matchup. I don't think Arboliva is really that good in this match. It kind of doesn't really do anything. If anything, you're also going to boost the power of Ogerpon Wellspring. Even when it does Terrastalize, it can still have powerful grass type moves boosted. Plus, it gets a spit def boost, so you can just really not be able to do much against it. It's decent to everything else, but I don't know how strong it would be in the rest of the matchup. So, definitely something to note there. I think Terra Ironmoth looks absolutely insane. I think if we can get a speed boost here, we can just kind of win the game. I do think you're forced to run max in order to speed tie with things like the Wellspring and the Latios. I do think you are forced to run enough speed to get the speed boost from booster energy as well. So you're gonna have to really play around with your special attack EVs and stuff. So really unfortunate there, as I didn't think Kyle's gonna be able to run a lot of special attack in this thing. So I could see something like an agility moth with modest and then enough speed outspeed whatever he really wants to outspeed, or timid to run enough speed outspeed what he has, but didn't run boost your special attack. Um, Definitely think I can see Terra Grass. Terra Grass would be there just so you can be able to take on the Order Pawn really well from a defensive side a little bit. So you can kind of be 3-hit KO'd at most from Ivy coverage or grass type move at most. I also think being grass lets you get a ground resist for the Iron Treads. Um, the only downside to being grass would be Petra Run, but I don't know if Petra Run's really going to run a poison move this matchup that's not toxic. So that could be something. Ditto, I definitely think could come even without needing to Terra in this matchup. I think Ditto alone is really hard for Shuckle to kind of play around with because if Shuckle's not careful and Zacian gets copied, there's a +1 Zacian versus his non +1 Zacian. And then this makes it a really difficult matchup for Shuckle to kind of play around with. Because Shuckle does lose to his own Zacian, funny enough. As long as Petroglyph is weakened to get 2 KO'd, and if the Treads is weakened down to a point where he gets 2 KO'd. So we're really going to have to be really careful for Shuckle here, as I think it's going to be really tough for him to deal with that. Rotom Wash may or may not be brought here. I think it does kind of need to be brought as it's a really good pivot into things like the Treads, the Wellspring, and the Latios to an extent. I think Voltage pivoting is going to be really good here. Sylveon, I think, is also another fantastic mon in this matchup. I think Sylveon has all the tools it needs to really win this matchup against a lot of things. The only thing that Sylveon's going to have to really worry about is just the Iron Treads. But if Iron Treads goes down, a Calm Mind Sylveon with Psychic actually kind of just runs house on Shucklekin's draft. The only thing that the Sylveon would have to worry besides Treads would be Zacian because of its offensive prowess. But just overall, it's going to be a great mon that can do a lot of work in this matchup here. And then Great Tusk, don't really think you bring Great Tusk. Really bad matchup for Great Tusk. Really doesn't do anything to really hurt a lot of the mons on Shuckle's roster. For Shuckle King's team, though, Zacian go ball. Zacian is insanely impossible for Kyle to really play around with, so he does have to be careful of that. I think Iron Chest is fantastic this matchup as well, besides bad matchup into Rotom Wash, but I think it does really well in there for the cells. Ogerpon Wellspring is fantastic. Being able to copy, get the Speed Def Boost once it teras, and always getting that when they come in. I think it's really fantastic, this matchup. I think it does so well into most of what Kyle has, and gives him now a true ice resist against the Chimpao with the Tera, so that's really important there as well. I think the Deoxys defense is pretty good, honestly, in this matchup as Kyle's dark type is Shin Pao. I think that you can just easily run a counter set or a body press set, and just be able to knock the thing out. I think it's really important to just be able to this. I think DOD does really well as well for the most part, being able to kind of just check out a couple of things and also getting the spikes up. I think it's gonna be your prime spiker for this match. I think spikes recover body press if it has it or counter whatever you want, and then like maybe like Nightshade, Psychic, something like that, just to kind of get some residual or shuttable maybe. I don't know. Petcheron, I definitely could see Petcheron coming. Petcheron's very annoying for Kyle to deal with, especially if he starts getting the poison puppeteer constantly going. Um, because even if he switch out with the top, he gets poisoned, so he's already poisoned down, so he's gonna be weakened down. So, definitely think Petron's gonna be really annoying. I don't know if Petron's a guaranteed bring though. I think Darkrai looks really good here, but Darkrai again, I believe is not 100% a guaranteed bring. But I definitely think Darkrai provides a lot of offensive pressure here. Um, God, my throat. Sorry, guys. Latios. Don't really know if we see Latios. I don't think this is a really good Latios matchup per se. If you bring Latios, kind of think more towards a physical Latios makes a ton more sense. I think just Latios needs checked by Chimpao, Sylveon, Jirachi relatively well once it's physical. Then if it's physical, we're gonna watch him just burn it and then kind of cripple it. So I don't know if this is a good Latios matchup. Hariyama, I don't know if you really bring Hariyama. It's not that great in this matchup, but it definitely provides good offensive pressure in here. Obviously, it's a good answer to things like Shin Pao, but even though it does have Psychic Fangs, it always the one hit, revenge that thing if it's not Sash. Moth, it would struggle a little bit with. But if it's AV, it can kind of be able to take the hits a little bit more better. Against Sylveon, it kind of doesn't do anything besides Bullet Punch and Heavy Slam, but I feel like you're really forcing coverage then at that point. Rotom Wash kind of beats it 1v1 unless it's Facade. But then if Facade's like your main move to hit choice against the rest of this team, it's definitely going to be really tough to use it outside of that. But it'll be interesting to see the least. But I do think I'm going to have to go with Shuckle on this matchup. I think Shuckle's team just really can overpower Kyle. And I do think some of his main threats, like his Zacian, can really do a lot of work in this matchup. So, but Kyle, he's a coach that's never lost, so he'll find a way to never lose this game. Up next we have Keegan versus Seabad, which is going to be interesting here. I know Keegan and Seabad have never played before, and they're the only some of the only teams that have full party rosters with mons that are irrelevant. So, we've got Deoxys, Garchomp, Clefable, Indeedee, Iron Hands, Brambleghast, Metagross, Chiyu, Manaphy, Dipplin, and Jumpo for the Terra Captains being Indeedee and Iron Hands for Seabad. Whereas Keegan has the Lunala, Greninja, Terra King Gambit, Florges, Blastoise, Infernape, Bronzong, Dunsparce, Houndstone, Mudsdale, and Swallow. Let's talk about Keegan's matchup here. Keegan has a fantastic matchup, I think. I think with Ghost Spam. Ghost Spam is super good into Seabad's team. Obviously, his only resistance and immunities are Indeedee and Chiyu, and Chiyu does have decent special defense. But I do think this is going to be a tough matchup for Steven to deal with Lunala. But it's going to be up to Keegan to try to keep that Shadow Shield up as much as possible. So I do think a Boot or Roost variant of Lunala has to be brought this matchup. But I do think you also be careful of the Clefable. I think Clefable is almost a must bring from Seabad's side because of where. We'll have to wait and see. But excuse me. I think Gren's pretty good here. I do think like a Battle Bond or Scarf Protean bring makes a ton of sense here. Scarf Protean would be really good because it can catch the Deoxys if it is trying to catch a reverse speed tie, speed creep. And I think Battle Bond just because if you can kind of find that opportunity to get that KO on a Pokemon, and then you can get yourself that +1 speed, +1 attack, and +1 special attack, you really put yourself in a very demanding and confident position to where you can win the game. So, do you think either Battle Bond or Scarf Protean is definitely the bring in this matchup? I think Terra King Gambit looks absolutely insane this matchup. I do think potentially Terra Ghost is Terra Ghost, or maybe something along the lines of Terra Fire. Terrifier sounds like a really weird choice to say there, but I think Terrifier is really good because it helps check the Chi Yu to an extent. It helps check the in the Fable. I could also see something like Terrafly. Terrafly looks good into most things as well. It kind of gives you that ground immunity from Garchomp, but it makes you weak to Iron Hands. I don't know. I don't know really what Terra type King Gambit will be, but I think it's gonna be something that helps check a couple of things like the Deoxys, the Chi-Yu, and stuff like that. So I do think that's really notable there. The Dunsparce, definitely something to really look forward in this matchup. I think the glare support is going to be really good here. Glare spam with Roost is going to be really annoying. I could see something like also like body slam to spread paralysis if you can't glare. I could then also see something like Shadow Ball to be able to take on things or Earthquake and stuff. So it's gonna be really interesting to see what the Dunstar spread we see here. Excuse me. But I do think the Dunstar looks really good here. And Verdict's really strong here too. Obviously, Manaphy is a bit of a problem, but the combination of fire and fighting is really hard for Chase to switch into. So I do think Infernape has a really good matchup here. Bronzong is also really solid here, and kind of just being a kind of like ground immunity, a good check things like Fable and DD, Iron Hands to an extent, Metagross to an extent. I think I could see something like a Trick Room weakness policy set. I could see something like Trick Room support and have some other things that could be like more offensive in Trick Room. So funny enough, his Houndstone can kind of do that. Like his Houndstone's pretty decent in this matchup. Like a Trick Room Houndstone with Poltergeist looks pretty strong here. Like Banded Poltergeist, because it's gonna easily 2 KO you. And it 2 KO. It's like Oko, just about everything else under Trick Room. I think the Brave set would definitely make more sense here in this matchup, so definitely could see that. Mudsdale, don't really know if you bring it. It's not that good in this matchup, but I could see it as if you need like a physically defensive mon to check things like Garchomp, Iron Hands, Metagross to an extent. So I don't know if I fully see it brought, but it's definitely something. Florges and Blastoise. Florges, I think you're kind of forced to bring to be a pseudo Chi check and Manaphy check. Do think you have to be a little careful going around things like the Iron Hands of Heavy Slam and being careful as being just a def wall and not being able to check physical defensive mons. I think Blastoise could definitely come. I think a Shell Smash Blastoise definitely could do a lot of work this matchup. I could see Mixed Blastoise. I could see fully special, fully physical. It just really depends on what kind of team that he wants to kind of encompass. Alright. But you think in terms of what I think he will actually bring, I think he has to be forced to bring a defensive Blastoise with spin and boots. Because like with the amount of hazard setting that Chase does have on his team, I do think boots on Robert Spin are going to be really important for this matchup, especially if he's not going to choose to bring boots on his Lunala for this matchup. So definitely something to note there. And again, and then Swalot's not coming. Uh, Into Seabad's team here, though, I think Deoxys is going to be really hard. It just comes down to how Chase really wants to play around Deoxys. If it wants to be like a Cobra set, even though I don't think it looks a Cobra hit, to be honest with you. If it's going to be Sash, if it's going to be Specs, Physical, Special, or anything like that. Garchomp looks really good in this matchup. Garchomp can really provide good offensive pressuring and a really good spiker for this matchup. I think Clefable is an absolute must bring. It's a really good spit depth wall you can bring this matchup if you don't want to bring a physically defensive wall. It's really fantastic here. Chi-Yu offensively is super good here. I think Chi-Yu does need to be a little careful around things like the Blastoise, Infernape, and Greninja. But for the most part, I think Chi-Yu can pretty much just check about everything out here. Manaphy is super strong here. I think Manaphy with Tail Glow kind of just wins the game here as there's not a lot of resistance to Surf and then Energy Balls. So definitely think something along the lines of like a Resto, Chesto, Tail Glow set. Excuse me, with Surf and Energy Ball. Energy Ball primarily for the Greninja, but again, it could just be only there for the Blastoise as well. But just overall, Manaphy is super strong in this going to take advantage of that. I do think if he wants to bring Manaphy though this matchup, he has to bring the speedy Manaphy versus the bulky variant of Manaphy, even though I think bulky Manaphy would actually do a lot better. I think speed, in order to just be able to have that speed over Lunala, is really important. So I don't think Lunala is actually that fast. I could be wrong though. And I would look it up, but I have mocks right here. I have team builds for my friend Jason when we do our mocks, and I don't want to spoil who he's facing. And well, I mean, we already know who he's facing, but I don't want to spoil. Actually, as we're recording this video, the week one will be going up. So actually, yeah, let's go ahead and just look that up right now. Lunala. Oh yeah, see, I was right. 90. Oh, wrong button. Check out Joey. But no, I am so 97 speed, so it would be forced to run by pretty much damn near max speed if that was the case. I guess this was like a max HP, max speed variant if he wanted to go for bulky Manaphy, or just almost max speed, max special attack for an offensive Manaphy. I personally like bulky Manaphy in this matchup. I think I could see speed Manaphy doing a lot of work here. Indeedee and Iron Hands. I think if you tear one, I think you're gonna tear the Iron Hands. I think tear Iron Hands looks a lot better. Indeedee kinda isn't that good in this matchup. I don't think it really does anything for you to benefit you. So don't think we're gonna be seeing the Psychic Surge this week. Um, I do think Iron Hands takes advantage of Terra at least a little bit better, and also Iron Hands just looks really good in this matchup in general. I think more so of an assault vest variant of Iron Hands, or something like maybe Terra Steel or Terra, like Ghost, Normal, something along those lines. Um, Possibly, or even Terra Electric. I think Terra Electrical still looks pretty good since Keegan's ground type can kind of lose and be overwhelmed. So I could see Terra Electric. But just overall, it's a really good matchup for Iron Hands. I think really good throws. Metagross is insanely good in this matchup. I think like an agility weakness policy, Metagross looks really good here. I think you can get triggered really easily. I think if you want to be like rest up chest out with agility and then have just like maybe dual stab or something along those lines, you can do really well there. I think an Iron Defense Body Press set is a little bit bad here, but I do think something along the lines of just an offensive response to bring is really, really good here. I think if you kind of bring this, you kind of bring a little bit more towards a Spadef variant of this Metagross because Lunala, taking one hit from Lunala and Greninja would be really great. So I do think there's that possibility from there. And then Dipplin and Jump Up are not seeing that at all. We're not going to see Bramogast either. It's a shit Bramogast matchup. Yeah, that's it. So in terms of this matchup here, oh, this is a really tough one. I think Seabat has a really good matchup into Keegan's Uber, but in terms of the whole team as itself, it's kind of a tough matchup for everything else. I think Keegan has good pieces into Seabat really well here, and I think that the Keegan just knows exactly what his game plan will have to be into this matchup. Whereas Chase, I don't know if he's gonna know his full game plan because again, I could see a really good combination of like the top eight Pokemon coming. Houndstone would just be a wild card one, if I'm going to be honest. I don't think Mudsdale comes and Swallow doesn't come. Houndstone would be the wild card bring here, but I think you have to plan for those top eight. It's gonna be really tough, especially if you don't know the Terra the King Gambit will be this matchup. So, funny enough, even though I've always voted against Keegan, I am now for the second week in a row picking Keegan. Does this character development? I don't know. But, excuse me, guys, my throat's just been really dry. But up next, we've got my main man Dell taking on the homie Grandmaster D Ray here. Dell Team Galio, Urshifu Single Strike, Lando T, Skeletor, Gomora, Hisuian Electrode, Weavile, and Hammers T, Dundozo, and Wugtrio, but Wugtrio's a fake Pokemon. With the Terra Captains being Skeletor and Hisuian Electrode, whereas D Ray's team is the Kyurem White, Deoxys Speed, Annihilate, Alolan Ninetales, Slowking, Cyclozar, Earthworm, Sandy Shocks, Hisuian Arcanine, and Skunkatenku, Kurt B's favorite Pokemon. We've got Terra on the Annihilate and the Skunk Tank here. And on paper, this definitely looks like a rough matchup for both players in some aspects. Looking at Dell's side, let's look at Dell here first. When you look into the matchup here, Solgaleo shreds this team. Like Solgaleo kind of just eats D-Ray's team alive. There's nothing that's stopping that thing from doing work in this matchup. Obviously, things like the Sandy Shocks can be really annoying, and a Scarf between Arcanine, and even like a super fast Annihilate could also do some work here, but this is over a super strong matchup for Solgaleo here. Urshifu, kind of the same boat. It's a really super strong Maw in this matchup. I do think it's a little more tougher for it to be potentially brought unless it's the Trailblaze set. But that would definitely force D-Ray to bring kind of certain sets that he has no choice but to bring in order to counter it, which would weaken down how some things should go with it. Lando T, definitely don't think you bring them on. Is really bad this matchup. Which I think is gonna be a little bit of concern since Sandy Shocks and Hisuian Arcanine are gonna get away with being really able to run free. Skeletors, I do think you bring Skeletors. I think like a Spadef variant. I think you either bring Terra either bring Terra normal or you bring Terra Water. I feel like Terra Water just because yes, freeze dry will be a thing from the Kieran White and the Alolan Ninetales, but for most times with being special defensive, you should be able to take most of their hits, except with Kieran White. I like Terra Normal as it gives you an option to kind of resist the ghost spam from Annihilate. Plus, if you burn it and it doesn't have Facade, you can just be able to be 1v1 with that in that perspective. I do think Glamora could potentially come as more of an offensive Glamora, if I'm going to be honest with you. But the problem with that would be if Earthworm does being brought, in which I do think D-Ray could have a shot of bringing Earthworm this matchup as like an Iron Defense Earthworm. Can really do well, which we'll talk about here in a second. Hisuian Electro, definitely think Hisuian Electro could be very much very make an appearance here. I think a Terra Fairy variant would be really strong this matchup. I also could see Terra Grass for some points of it, or even Terra Water be able to hit the Sandy Shocks they see in Arcanine potentially. But again, that's a little niche. And I don't know if it would really be beneficial, but I don't know. Weavile could see being brought this matchup, but at the same time, I don't think I really could, based on how the composition of D-Ray's team is. So it would be really interesting if the Weavile does show up. I wouldn't be surprised. Enamor's T definitely does not come this matchup. Dozo, I could maybe see brought, but I don't know. I definitely think that Solgaleo and the Urshifu are going to be the biggest threats to D-Ray here. But I think D-Ray can pretty much have a whole counter to about everything else that Dell has. So looking at D-Ray's matchup here, Kieran White looks really strong here. Kieran White really offensively pressures a lot of mons here. I think Ninetales does really well here as well. I do think you're forced to bring a Scarf Ninetales, and this is what I was talking about. I think you bring Scarf Ninetales, and the main reason I say that is because unless that Electrode is running enough speed to counteract a Speedy on the Speedy version of Ninetales, you can be able to catch the thing off guard, knock that thing out. Scarf lets you knock out things like Weavile, which is really great, and Scarf lets you guarantee knock out things like Urshifu. As much as I think the Aurora Veil set is really good here, I think a Scarf Ninetales or just an offensive Ninetales in general looks really strong here. So really much an important mon here that can do a lot of work. I think your Annihilate shreds. Your Annihilate is super good here. I think along the lines of something like maybe Terra Ghost um, Terra Ghost could work this matchup, but I also don't hate the option of potentially Terra Fire. Terra Fire is kind of niche, I won't lie, but especially if he brings something like a Terra Water bring on something. But I think Terra Fire is really good because it gives you a really good stab option against Solgaleo. It's neutral into things like Solgaleo, and that's Solgaleo, into this Urshifu. Gives you a resistance to Weavile, and pressures offensively. I think it's also just a decent Terra type in this matchup. I think DOS can be pretty much your spike setter for this matchup. As again, the only removal that Dell has is Gamora, which if he's going to bring it, he has to bring Mortal Spin every single time. I kid you not, unless he's going to be confident enough to run the boots on everything. So I do think like a Hazard's TO speed looks really good here. So I think your top four definitely abroad. As for your bottom six, as for your, like your next six mods, I think Earthworm. Earthworm with Iron Defense Body Press legitimately will cook through Dell. I think like a Resto Chesto variant does really well. Obviously things like Wicked Blow can be a thing, but I really think overall this worm can do so much good damage in this matchup. I think you prioritize being more a little bit physically defensive. But if it's Skeletors just coming with you, or Skeletors for this thing to really pop off. Or that's I think where things like the Sandy Shocks and Student Arcanine come in. I think those are like your fifth or sixth. Right there is like your sixth one right there. I think Skuntank's okay, but I don't think it's really that great in this matchup. I think like if you bring Skuntank, you're forced to bring more of a Terra Dark set or a Terra Ghost set potentially. I don't know. But I just don't think it's really that good in this matchup. But I do think between Sandy Shocks and Eastern Arcanine. That's like your 6 month should always be. I don't think Slowking's really that good here. I don't think Slowking really benefits too much in this matchup and really provides much. Cyclozar you could bring is a more of an offensive variant of it, but again, Skeletor should easily burn it, so I don't really know. I think if you bring Arcanine, you're bringing Banded. I think if you're Banded or Scarf, and you can bring Sadie Shocks, I can see booster speed. I can see specs. I could see screens if you really want to go with as well. But just overall, I think that's what your 6 month is. And in terms of the matchup, I will be picking D-Ray here. D-Ray, I just feel like has a really good matchup into most about everything that Dell has. So definitely one of those things where I do think D-Ray has a team that just counters Dell's to the perfect thing. I think Dell has to really rely on his mascot here to really put in the work this week and try to be take down D-Ray. Up next, we have got my main man OG Albina taking on Vepsis here. And I think Owen has never beaten Vepsis. I think that the first time they played was low tier. I could be, no, they have not. No, Owen has beaten Vepsis before. I think they're 1-1. I think maybe I don't know. But so Owen's team, you guys differentiate is Dialga, Fluttermane, Terra Mew, Crocodile, Ogerpon, Quarterstone, Quaquaval, Pheasantipity, Sheen, and Rotom Sheet. Whereas Vepsis' team is Rayquaza, Iron Valiant, Zamos of the Crown, Mesper Klefki, Alamola, Muk, Terra on the Thunderous T, and the Terra on Rhydon, Sabrina, and Incineroar. So looking at Owen's roster into Vepsis, I do think Dialga is really strong here. I do think you're forced to bring a Choppa variant of the Dialga to either counteract the Summons at the Crown or the Iron Valiant. Otherwise, I think that your Dialga really punches a lot of holes into most of Vepsis' draft. I think also being able to take one Dragon type move from the Rayquaza is really great. Taking at least one move from the Iron Valiant if it's a fairy stab, unless it's fighting, obviously, which I think is really great. Fluttermane cooks. Fluttermane, I could easily see being specs this matchup. I think booster speed with Calm Mind also looks really good here. But another matchup where I think specs, Scarf, or booster speed with Calm Mind or something like that looks absolutely insane. I don't know if you're going to have enough speed to run Modest if you're wanting to outspeed the Iron Valiant, but I do think you're forced to run Timid with booster speed in order to outspeed the Zelda with the Crown, if that's going to be the case as well. So overall, I really think this is going to be a really good matchup here for Owen Spider-Man, and his Dialga is okay. I do think it's really good Merrick in this matchup, so definitely could see that. I could also wouldn't be surprised to see a Scarf Dialga variant as well. Scarf Dialga could definitely do a lot of work here, but I think Chopberry fits a lot more better. But overall, I think his two Ubers look really good here. Terra Mew is going to be really interesting here. I could definitely see Terra Ghost Mew really putting in a lot of work here. Incineroar, don't really think he's going to be brought from Repsis' side. I think there's too many good counters to it that Owen has. So I think like a Terra Ghost Mew is like perfect for here. I could see something along the lines of maybe Calm Mind, Nasty Plot, Dragon Dance, specs maybe Scarf if you really wanted to be more that of a speedy offensive thing. Just overall, I think on an offensive Terra Ghost or maybe Terra Ghost or Terra Fairy Mew looks really, really, really good in this matchup. I would say Terra Dark so he doesn't get punished by Klefki, but I think Terra Dark's kind of a throw if you bring in things like Samsung and Valiant here. So I think Terra Ghost makes a ton of sense here. Crocodile can do pretty good in this match. I think Crocodile is really hard for Veps to kind of switch into for the most part. Um, Crook does outspeed, and if it gets a speed boost off with a scale shot on things like the Rayquaza or on anything else for that matter, and gets that speed raise, is going to do a lot of damage here and can provide really good offensive momentum. Don't know if you're going to bring Ogerpon. Ogerpon's really a toss up this matchup, as it can't really do much to the Klefki if it's Magnet Rise. It struggles to deal with things like Zamazenta, Iron Valiant, but it does help against a couple of other things. I just don't know if it's that good this matchup, especially when the Terra on Thunder's T can be something that resists rock and fly, rock and grass, or one or the other that really matters more towards it. But overall, I just don't realistically know if it's brought, but it definitely would be something. Shaman could potentially be brought. Shaman could be really good annoying mon. I think like a Rocky Helmet variant that's physically defensive could definitely cause problems here, as it can be something like along the lines of Leech Seed Synthesis, and then just like Seed, either Seed Flare, Earth Power, or just maybe Leech Seed, Seed Flare, Earth Power, Air Slash Dazzling Gleam, something like that, more so. Just be able to punish things on there and be more of a physically defensive threat of anything. So, excuse me. So I definitely think Owens has worked for him. Rotom Heat, definitely think he has to bring that as a really decent defensive answer, but it could just simply also be offensive. I think an offensive Rotom Heat can really provide good offensive pressure onto Vepsis, and would definitely kind of force us to be a little careful how he plays around with Rotom. Pheasantipity, I could see brought, but at the same time, it does absolutely nothing to Zama. He does pretty good into things like the Rayquaza for a little bit and the Iron Valiant. It really doesn't do much to Mesprit, Aloe. Well, Aloe can kind of be 1v1 somewhat. Muck kind of 1v1s it. Thundy 1v1s it. Rhydon can 1v1 it with the proper Terra choices. Even without Terra, it kind of 1v1s it. So, don't really think you bring Festivity. Quaquaval, again, another really tough bring this week when there's things like the Mesprit, which can be able to take a hit, knock it out, and then go into something like the Iron Van, which is speed, just punish that thing. There is things like the Alamola, which just walls the damn Ductile, Kingdom Con, and either just punishing it, but Owen can definitely play around it. Thunder Sea, which just always outspeeds it and just one shots it with a Thunderbolt. It's really tough for Owen. I don't know why I'm getting tired again. I really think this is a really rough Owen matchup here for him. In terms of Vepsis' team, Rayquaza just goes burn, man. Rayquaza is super hard for Owen to take on an offensive hit from. Dual Stab is insanely good. Same as Iron Valiant and Zama's the Crown. Zama Crown, I could maybe see not being fully brought because of the fact there is Crook, there is uh, Rotom, there is Quaquaval, there is things like even like Fluttermane to an extent, and the Terra on the Mew. There could be a chance he doesn't bring it, but I think Zamazenta is just too good of a mod to pass up this matchup where they could really punish people and play right. I do think Aloe could be brought. Aloe could be a decent pivot in this matchup here. I think he can definitely apply a good defensive backbone. I think Klefki comes with screens. I think screens Klefki really puts in some really hard times for Owens because Owens not going to be able to really break that at all. And plus spikes look really good into Owen's draft, so I definitely think spikes make a ton of sense to be brought here into this matchup. I think Thundy T, if it's brought, I could see something along the lines of something like Terra, like an agility Terra Ghost physical set. I could see Terra fighting potentially with like with an agility set, and then having acrobatics as a move, and then Terra Blast, and then something maybe. I don't really know. Maybe an electric move potentially, or knockoff. I don't really know. Rhydon could be really good in this matchup with Terra, but I don't know how well Amon it would do here. Muck, don't really think Muck comes. Muck's not overall that good this matchup, but definitely would not be surprised to see the Muck if he really wanted to try to a kind of more of a decent wall but an offensive attacker that can do some work here for him this matchup. Mesprit, definitely think Mesprit has a decent chance to show up this matchup. I think if Mesprit comes, it's more so a Culverberry set if it's called wide. Uh, a pivot mon. I think Culver fits a little more better because you can take one hit from the Flurry because I don't think Specs makes a ton of sense what Specs does. I also think Thunderwave support is also really good in this matchup if it's not going to be on the Klefki. So overall, I think Vepsis' team matches up really well into Owen, and I'm going to go ahead and pick a Vepsis for this matchup here. Sorry if you hear me snorting or anything like that. It's just me pulling the air into my nose because I'm just trying to clear my nose a little bit here. But up next, we have got CB Marcus taking on Amel. We have CB Marcus with the Palkia, Dragapult, Zapdos, Excadrill, Tentacruel, Tyranitar, Gardevoir, Ribombee, Suino, Voltorb, and the Mienshao with Terra on Excadrill, where he takes on Amel, who is right above his head, with Palkia Origin, Palkia, Dialga Origin, Ogerpon, Volcarona, Donphan, Gengar, Umbreon, Hawlucha, Hatterene, and Graveler, with Terra being on Ogerpon and a Graveler, but we're not going to even talk about the Graveler. So let's look at what Animal can do in this matchup. I think Animal's horses really do really well in this matchup. The only horse that I think does the most matchup wise is Origin Palkia. I think Origin Palkia is a way better matchup here. The only problem is going to be this. Palkia is going to guarantee be outsped by things like Dragapult, Scarf Palkia, and obviously the Sand from Excadrill. So definitely going to be very tough for, and as well as the Scarf for Bombi and Gardevoir, which it's really tough for able to justify bringing Gardevoir like Palkia in this matchup. This is why I do think these Ubers are not as good in this format because being forced to hold an item is not a good Uber in my opinion. If you like your Uber is not is being forced to hold an item and you have good no synergy around him, it's not really that good of a mon. So it's gonna be really tough to see how Emo works with this though, but I do think he really well. I think his Ogerpon though can do really good this matchup. I think Terra Ogerpon looks insanely strong. In just punishing just about everything on that team. Especially since it's going to be forcing the webs to potentially not be brought this matchup as before even Terra's it gets a Defiant activate. So definitely something that CB might have to be forced to bring no Rabombi for as well since Rabombi also has a bit of a rough matchup outside of it. I'm not gonna lie a little bit. Gengar looks really strong here. I think like a good Scarf Gengar bring or kind of like a Cobra Berry Gengar bring. Even Air Balloon can kind of do well here. I can also see Cassim do really well here as well. But just overall, Gengar is really strong here. Donphan looks really strong into this team as well. Donphan can really do a lot of things here, punishing a lot of switch-ins and potentially getting some Okos or defense drops or something here. Halucha is pretty decent this matchup. I don't think Halucha is the greatest mon matchup wise because I do think it's kind of forced to run a lot of moves. It's forced to run rock coverage, fighting coverage, ground coverage, flying coverage, or he's going to really rely on his flying over some of the other stab timings to run setup, which I think setup is kind of important for him in this matchup to really do a lot. Also, I think it's something like around the lines of endure is another thing as well. So it's going to be really hard for Emo to kind of play around this. I think his Volcarona also does really bad here, as it really doesn't do too much to anything on the team. Like you can try to run Psychic, but then you're losing on the options to do a couple of things here. I do think it's not the worst mon this matchup, but I just don't think it does anything well for him here. Umbreon is probably one of his only saving graces, but that becomes a setup threat for a lot of Pokemon and kind of just takes advantage of them really easily. So, definitely something that it could be really struggle to really do here, but I think Animal can pull it off, but it's going to be really impossible for him to really do so. Looking at Marcus's team, though, Marcus just overpowers him with his own Palkia. Palkia just really runs roughshod over Amel's team. I think Polt's pretty good here. Dragon Spam is pretty much damn near free. Oh, I didn't mention Hatterene. Hatterene's pretty decent into Stevie Marcus, but I don't know, man. Hatterene's okay. It looks really strong on paper, but it's going to come down to how Emil performs with it, and if anything unless he gets countered. But Steven Marcus' Dragons looks super good in this matchup. Polt looks absolutely fantastic this matchup. Obviously, Polt's only concern is going to be mostly the Umbreon there. And then obviously Palkia, same thing, kind of, but also dealing with the Hatterene. But I think overall, just Palkia is really good. And also dealing with the other Palkia on their side. But if anything, I think that's going to force a Scarf Palkia bring just to make sure, or a Hubomb Berry Palkia, one of the two. Really tough matchup here for Amel because I just think with Sand as well, Sand is super good into him. He just really has a hard time struggling with it. I think Terra Drill, I think you could see something along the lines of Terra Flying, Terra Fire, Terra um, fighting to deal with the Umbreon and not be losing to foul play and stuff. It's gonna be and also to properly check the Dialga origin as well. If we can run Magnet Rise, which I think it does have, maybe I don't remember. But Terraflying also looks really good in things like Lucha, so this is definitely gonna be a very tough matchup. Zapdos looks pretty good here. I don't know if Zapdos is guaranteed burn though. Zapdos is really good in the matchup though, regardless. I think Mian Shao is pretty damn good here. Mian Shao's a little tough to bring a little bit because of Halucha and Hat, but I do think Mian Shao can do a lot here. Tentacruel, another mon that may or may not be brought. It's not that insanely good here. T-Tar is pretty decent this matchup as T-Tar can get with Death Boost in the sand and can take at least one hit from the Yaga Origin if it is special. Can take at least one hit from the Pelican Origin as well if it's special. Um, but everything else it kind of struggles with. Again, if it's brought, it's almost there to provide sand for CB Marcus. But I could see potentially CB Marcus going with a different route for his extra drill if he feels like it's more comfortable doing something else that isn't just sand, and especially if he's bringing webs. Gardevoir looks really good in this matchup. Gardevoir, his dual stab is pretty much impossible for anyone to deal with. He does have to rely on trying to outspeed Scarf Guard over variants and has to just outspeed most things he can. But overall, I just think this is just CB Marcus' game, and I'm going to have to just pick CB Marcus for that reason. I think he just really, really has a good matchup. It's about just about everything that Amo could bring this matchup. Now, obviously, Amo could have made changes to his roster that we will update in the description as well. But for right now, based on the teams how they are, I do think this is CB Marcus' matchup. Up next, we have got Viz versus Nexus, and they're right next to each other. Hot damn, very good. But we've got Viz here who has Deoxys Attack, Shaman Sky, Hisuian Samurai, Archalion, Palafin, Pelipper, Ursaluna, Vikavolt, and Mimikyu with the Terra on the Ursula and Vikavolt, where he's taking on Vet Nexus, who has got Magearna, Spectre, Tinglu, Salamence, Cinderace, Uxie, Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Weezing, and Abomasnow, Terra on the Salamence and the Abomasnow. The battle of the nine Mon teams. This is going to be a very tough matchup for Nexus because he is going to be dealing with a Palafin, and I think Rain Palafin is really good here. But there's one thing that Biz has to take into consideration before he guaranteed brings Rain Palafin, and that's going to be the Urshifu Rapid Strike. So let's going to look down on how Biz does in this matchup. First off, Deoxys attack is going to be so hard for Nexus to really work around with. Nexus is going to have to bring every Sucker Punch user he can get, any priority user he can get, and just really punish that Deoxys attack. He definitely take advantage of a Trick Room Unit set. Taking advantage with a Trick Room Unit set, which I think is really good, but we'll talk about that in a second. Shaman Sky, pretty damn good mon in this matchup. I think Shaman Sky has a really hard time being swapped in with, especially if Nexus does not have any Scarfers that can really take advantage of this. Hisuian Samurai, kind of a tough one to bring this matchup, but I do think it does match up pretty well. I think I could see some belongs of a Choppa variant with something like Air Slash or Aerialist to be able to take on the Urshifu for the most part. But overall, it's a super strong mon in this matchup. We can provide really good offensive pivoting. Our Chaladon maybe isn't broad. I don't know. It could definitely still be broad, but I don't think it's going to be that main of a mon if it does. Palafin, I think is an easy answer, but I do think you're forced to bring a clear aerial variant of Palafin. I think Boots makes a ton of sense. Pelipper, it really depends if you're willing to fight around Urshifu Rapid. Ursaluna, I would say you only bring if you're going to guarantee Terra it and Terra into something like maybe like a water type. Water or Terra into a normal type with Chople, maybe? I don't know. Kind of depends on that. Vikavolt, I could see you bringing in just as a normal Pokemon. Just dual stab looks really strong into most things on the team. It can really provide offensive pressure. And it takes advantage of the Trick Room as well. Mimikyu, another Pokemon that definitely could come easily in this matchup. It offensively pressures a lot of things. It can really punish a lot of Pokemon on Nexus' team if he's not careful. Now, Nexus, I think Trick Room Magearna is absolutely perfect this matchup. I do think, however, you must respect the Ursaluna and bring a Shuka variant. I think a Shuka Trick Room set looks really good in the matchup. I think Spectre looks pretty decently good in this matchup, but I don't think it's going to be very much broad. I think it's really hard to really bring in into things like Samurott, Ursaluna, Mimikyu, and from the speed of Deoxys attack, I don't really think it's that good of a mod into the matchup. But if Nexus can feel comfortable with the build he has, I can see Spectre coming and doing a lot of work in this match. Tinglu, don't realistically think you bring it. I think when you see so many good counters towards it on your opponent's side, I think it's really rough on. Salamence definitely think it comes. I do think you bring more of an Intimidate set, even though it's super obvious to bring Intimidate. I think along the lines of something maybe like Terra Fly, Terra Steel, Terra Grass, something along those kind of lines, and or maybe even Terra Water or Terra Electric, something like that to kind of take advantage of that. Cinderace, I do think it's bring, and I do think it's respect the hazards and bring heavy potentially core change, but I think you have to be forced with boots. Sucker Punch, like I said, because I also must bring on this set. I think Fireball must be is potentially a bring, or you can just go with High Jump Kick. I think also if you bring the Legend Ball for the Pelipper, he is God status for that. But I do think it's gonna be a really tough matchup from there. Uxie, I think, can do really well with the Cobra Berry. I think Uxie can really kind of punish a couple of things and kind of be able to have that. And it's another good trick rumor for this team to really kind of benefit it. Urshifu Rabbit Strike, another fantastic Pokemon this matchup if the rain does come. If rain does not come, it's still a fantastic ball in this matchup. It needs to deal with kind of weakening down Deoxys to a certain extent or getting an SD off. Or if it's banded, again, looks like get that chip damage off and then kill it with a banded Aqua Jet. So a lot of things stuff kind of factor there. Wheezing, don't really know if you bring Wheezing, but I do like T Spikes into a matchup where there is no grounded poison type, so I do think Wheezing makes a ton of sense to be brought into the matchup. Versus the Ursaluna to be poison in this matchup versus anything else. And if it is Terra Poison, it's actually not a bad bring, but it does make it weak down to Uxie, which is another thing. Abomasnow, I definitely could see him bringing Abomasnow just in case if he's really stressed about wanting to get rid of weather. But I also wouldn't mind seeing this even potentially be a Terramon. I think Terra Water looks really good into this matchup for the most part, especially taking advantage of the Trick Room. I could see Terra Water. I could see something like maybe Terra Grass. I could see something like one of the Terra Electric. Just a lot of kind of factors into this matchup here. I love Aurora Veil though in this matchup. I think Aurora Veil looks really good here. But in terms of this matchup though, oh, this is really tough. Ooh, this is a really tough matchup here. I think both teams do really well into each other, but if I had to pick a team that does a bit more well into the other, you know what? I'm going to pick Nexus. And here's the reason why I'm picking Nexus. I think Nexus is a team that takes advantage of both the in and the out of the rain with the hail support or snow support, I should say, from Obama Snow. The dual trick room that he has with Magirna and Uxie. The removing of hazards with Cinderace and the offensive pressuring of Urshifu. I think Baptist. Why am I messing up names today? I am so sorry, everyone. Nexus just does really well, and I think overall, I gotta go with my main name, Nexus. I think Nexus can really use his team effectively well into Viz, but Viz again, he's Mr. Creativity. He will literally create whatever the heck he feels like, and he'll make it work because he can just do that. So, very interested to see how this matchup goes. So I think the first time oh my god, Nexus. I just combined Vepsis and Nexus. I mean Vexus. But Nexus versus Viz. This should be a really good game. I think it's the first time they're ever playing against each other, so this should be a really fun matchup here. And the last matchup here we got is my main bros, John Jr. and Diet Tight. We got John here who has Ho-Oh, Kieran Black, Goldango, Terra Iron Boulder, Grimmsnarl, Toadschool, Galarian Weezing, Azel Swampert, and Gratel taking on Diet Tight's team. Jason with Zamazenta, European Origin, Terra Necrozma, Snorlax, Thundurus, Incarnate, Azumarill, Mamoswine Fortress, Hisuian Quillfish, and the Terra Minior. Looking at John into Jason's team, Ho-Oh is definitely going to be a problem. Ho-Oh is very hard offensively for us to deal with switching wise, but I could see something along the lines of a special Ho-Oh to take advantage of the fact that we have Intimidate with our Quillfish, which Intimidate Quillfish is going to be really important in this matchup, if you want my honest opinion. But Ho-Oh can just be very annoying for us to deal with. I think like a mixed Ho-Oh set could be really good. We already know John's bringing Kieran Black because John just brings Kieran Black no matter what. Sharon Black is just insanely good to us. If we allow it to get a Dragon Dance, it's definitely going to be insanely hard for us to really play around that. And we're going to really rely on things like Fortress and Quillfish to hopefully take hits and hopefully have to deal with it, or our Terras on our Minior and our Necrozma. Goldango, don't really see that being that much of an issue into our team and don't really know if it's going to be fully brought. But knowing John, he could bring it, but I don't think it's really that good. Terra Iron Boulder, I have no clue what we could see. We could see something along the lines of Terra Dark to counteract the ghost spam that we have on our team. We could see Terra Dark to stop the Prankster from Thunders with Thunderwave, which I definitely see John doing. It's just gonna be a really tough Boulder matchup for us as we do not have a really good switch into its dual stabs at all on our roster. Unless we went with either a Terra Steel set but then it has a Terror Blast and also the fighting coverage from us. So we're going to really be creative this week and what we're going to go with here. Grimstar, I think dual screens are going to be really annoying for us to deal with, especially because we have no proper way to remove them besides break on a couple of Pokemon, which that can always get taken advantage of on switching and just pull in something that we don't really want to deal with. Toad's Cruel, I could see brought as like a hazard spot plus potentially Spore Spam. Spore Spam could just be really good if John's willing to trade rocks on having being up on the side of the field if he doesn't care about rocks too much. And then going from that, I can also see John trying to get the hazards up as well, which is really annoying for us to deal with. Larian Wheezing, we actually kind of struggle with. It's really a good Zama. It's really good Zama counter. It's a really good answer to things like the Azumarill, the Mamoswine, and the Fortress. Really tough for us to deal with there, but I do think it's going to be a model that we could potentially take advantage of if he's not careful. Azelf is definitely going to be really hard for us to deal with. I think the specs or Choice Band Azelf or even Mixed Life Orb cooks us really good. Our only mod that can outspeed that is our Scarfers or our Zamazenta. But overall, it is a super strong mon in this matchup. I think Swampert, very good tried and true John Jr. mon. I can see something like Assault Vest Swampert or especially defensive Swampert with slow flip turns, rocks, and then just maybe ice coverage, and then either a fighting move or another water move that's not flip turn potentially. Just overall, this is a really strong mon into the team. I could see something like a Reno Berry set as well. If you like, got to bring a Soul Vest. And then Grottle, well, Grottle will just be the cheer unless he wants to really humiliate Jason with the Grottle. Looking at our matchup into John here, Zamazenta is pretty damn decently good in this matchup. I think speed stat wise looks really good here. I do think we just struggle quite a bit against a couple of things, which we might force ourselves not to bring Zama, like against Ho-Oh, Wheezing, Azelf, Boulder, and Dango. It's really going to be tough for us to really find the right moveset coverage we're going to need for this matchup. But I do think we can be able to pull off the pieces that we do need to win the matchup with Zama. Because Zama does look really good into his team drawers, especially with that speed stat. Giratina is going to be really strong on our end as well as Giratina's ghost moves are really hard for John to resist since he does not have a normal type on his draft. So we can just spam normal ghost spam into him for the most part. I like the option of going more towards mixed ghost on mixed offensive with our ghost typing here. But overall, I think Giratina looks super strong in this matchup. Terra Necrozma looks really good. I think honestly, our Terra Necrozma or Terra Minior look absolutely insane this matchup. In terms of our Terra types, though, I don't know what we're gonna go with here. I really don't know what we go with here. I could see us going with Terra Dark, both because we can stop the Grip Snow from trying to Thunderwave us. Um, which I think is really huge for us. But overall, it's going to be one of those mods I think we're going to use as our setup win con and just kind of go in there from there. Snorlax is not a bad mod to bring this matchup as he's a really good fixed factor user, which can tend to take on the Ho relatively well. I think we could run something like a Rest Curse Sleep Talk variant, potentially with Facade. I also could see something like Rest Sleep Talk with Earthquake and Crunch, or Earthquake Facade, Earthquake Body Slam. Something along those lines, so we can take on most things on John's roster. I think the Thunderous Incarnate's pretty good here. I do think that we bring more towards a Yachiberry variant, if anything. Really good mod into most things John does have. It can kind of be able to coverage enough to kind of take on most things. Azumarill cooks. Azumarill, if we can position correctly and have the right set, Azumarill can claim about 1 to 2 KOs off of John's team alone because he's an insanely good matchup into most things that John does have that are not going to really want to appreciate to a stab. I think Mamoswine is a fantastic mod in this matchup. I do think we're going to deal with the speed gap though with Mamoswine here though, and kind of have to really play around a lot of things. But Mamoswine's dual stab does really well here and can provide really good offensive pressuring against John. But we have to really, really play our mammal carefully, especially on what kind of set we do build. The Syrian Quillfish could see being brought as John's only removal option is going to be the Toad Scroll and the Glaring Wheezing. And we can kind of be able to take on both of those decently well. But I don't know if this is going to be the best to see Quillfish matchup. Fortress, again, another mon that we could bring, but we have to always switch out against the Ho-Oh, which we have to risk being burnt every single time with. And we have very limited switches to Ho-Oh on our roster. So Fortress is going to be one of those mons that we may or may not even bring, but it's definitely something that can definitely match up very well into John's roster itself. And like I said, with Minior, if we do bring it, it's going to be more so likely a Shell Smash variant, but we have to be very careful on what kind of moveset and Terra we want to go with in terms of the matchup. So In terms of how I think this matchup can go, it can really kind of go either way. I think both teams struggle with a couple of mons on each team, and I think it's going to be one of those matchups where it's going to really come down to the prep. The prep is really going to decide who is going to win this matchup and who is going to walk away with a W and either go with a 1-1 record or 2-0 record, depending on how the previous matchups went. So this is going to be really tough. I realistically think if I had to really pick who I think has a good matchup here. Uh, as much as I don't want to do this again to my boy Jason. I do think John has a good team matchup into us. I think John's team is just insanely hard for us to counter with having screens. Hoa, which just kind of just checks about everything we have on our team. Kieran Black, once he gets set up, kind of is impossible to stop the steamrolling from happening. Tarakion with Terra Dark to stop the prankster from thinking Thunderwave and then just getting a booster speed, set up Swords Dance, and then just kind of win the game. Azov was just offensively precious as alone. I think it's just going to be a really, really difficult matchup for us here. But I definitely think me and Jason can pull off this win against John here and do what we got to do to take down John Jr. from winning this win. But it's definitely not going to be an easy matchup. But that was a matchup for week two. Like I said, I will actually stop doing these early pick'ems just so I can kind of get more of a thought process going around this and that way we can see if any transactions are made in the future that we can also do that. And I also will make note of any transactions that are in that do happen for week two going forward in the description as well. So we'll have our record for pick'ems, we'll have any transactions, and we will also have any um, if any teams were replaced as well. We'll also make note of. But anyways, I'll give you guys my thoughts and opinions on those and go from there. But like I said, I'll take a break from doing the pick'ems until we actually get started with the season, and then we'll go from there. But thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Definitely check out some of the interviews we're going to be planning. I've already got planned with, as the time of recording this, you've already will have seen me doing one with Jason, probably one with Joey, and I'm going to try my best to maybe get another one, a couple of them done before the season starts, or as the season goes. I will try to get people like Vepsis, Owen, Obo, maybe Keegan, maybe like people like Ant and all them. Like I want to try to get every coach in here, but if some coaches don't want to, then some coaches don't have to. It's up to them. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.